Now, if you ever needed a reason for small boat migrants to be detained upon entry and never allowed to venture into British communities, well, here's a shocking example. This is Sadeq Nikzad. He's a 29-year-old who was recently jailed for 9 years for raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl in Scotland after claiming asylum in Britain. Now, the Daily Mail has done some great work this weekend. They've revealed that Nikzad travelled 4,000 miles from his native Afghanistan to reach the UK and claim asylum around 2 years before his attack on the girl, living it up in at least 3 safe European cities before finally arriving in Falkirk, where he pounced on the schoolgirl yards from his migrant hostel. The attack sent shockwaves all across Scotland and sparked the very first angry protests up there against asylum hotels. But the disgusting rape aside, an absolute horror that the poor girl will frankly never get over, here's where this story gets worse. Social media pictures posted by the guy before arriving in Britain show him apparently living a life of luxury as a gallivanting tourist rather than someone fleeing war or persecution. He poses gleefully outside some of the world's most famous landmarks, including Rome's Colosseum and Cologne Cathedral, as he made his way as an apparent refugee, remember, to the UK. As the Mail reports, one picture shows him sporting a North Face puffer jacket worth more than £300 and smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris as the sun sets behind him. Very good. Another shows that upon arriving in the UK by small boat, he stopped off at a shopping centre in Basingstoke in Hampshire, where he uploaded a post of himself wearing a 3-piece linen suit. Doesn't he look smart? His social media posts have been met with comments from friends and family back home in Afghanistan, with some writing, "Good job" and "God bless." Well, it appears his journey to the UK began in late 2020 after he shared a snap of himself more than 3,000 miles away in Europe outside the Royal Palace of Turin in Italy. He enjoyed boat trips in the sun, and social media pictures show he even went to Sicily for a short period too. By 2021, it appears he'd inched ever closer to the UK by travelling north to Cologne in Germany. Images suggest he was later housed by the Home Office in the Cladhen Hotel in Scotland. There are images of him here now on your screen, lounging in the hotel's plush leather chairs. In October 23, Nikzad approached a 15-year-old girl near a local pub in Falkirk and brutally raped her in broad daylight. When he was jailed in June, his lawyer claimed he hadn't been educated about the significant cultural differences between the UK and Afghanistan, where child marriage is rife. So here's yet another example of how the current small boats crisis is putting our women and children at risk of monsters like this. The longer this nonsense is tolerated, the more women and girls will have their lives ruined by a political decision to stop the boats immediately in their tracks.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The businessman and activist Adam Brooks, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour MP Bill Rammell. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
My last Ben Leo tonight. Welcome along. Adam Brooks, let's start with you. You've been down to Epping today at the Bell Hotel protest. The protest there, by the way, is against the government now appealing the decision.
We've been there every week without fail, and the people wanted to go there today, 300-400, I would say, against the government basically going against its own people, trying to overturn this court judgment that will see the migrants leave in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So the narrative from the ground is basically it's us v the government. And that's a terrible thing. A government is meant to represent its people, is meant to keep its people safe. Yet, I would say the majority of this country now believes that the government is actively working against them.
What do you make of this guy here, this Afghan guy who was having a jolly good time all across various European cities, Cologne,
Right.
he went to Sicily, he had sunset boat trips as well, finally got to the UK and then rapes a schoolgirl.
How many times do people like myself and Chloe have to say that these are not refugees, these are economic migrants coming to game our system for whatever they can? They come from cultures where women are not even second-class citizens, they are third-class citizens. They're a piece of dirt to them in many countries. So, and as you said, some of these countries allow child marriage. What are we to expect when these people come en masse to our country? Are we expecting them just to put all their beliefs behind them and their behaviour? No. They see a woman with a bit of skin showing and they cannot help themselves. This is a danger to our women and our kids.
Chloe,
Well, I mean,
this guy was, on paper, was a refugee. He was granted asylum by the Home Office.
Well, he came originally from Afghanistan, and that's what the Home Office will have looked like, and they'll have gone, oh, that's a dangerous country, so we must grant this guy asylum. But I think if we're going to take anybody from dangerous countries, especially ones with backwards views on women, we should be taking the women and children via legal routes only. Because if you go to these backwards countries, you often have, for example, IDP camps and internal displacement camps, refugee camps for people they haven't actually been able to leave the country, but they're sort of on their way and trying to. And you speak to women in these camps, and they are, because they don't have, you know, houses that lock, they're just in tents. They are terrified because they've got men coming into their tents in the nights and raping them, including their children. And it's those guys that then leave those camps and then come and make their way to Britain. And those are the people we're supposedly saving.
Bill, what do you make of this this monster I just told the viewers about? I mean, how many of him are there out on the streets today, being free to roam the streets of
Thousands.
Britain? Is he a good case for having... If you're not going to stop the small boats, is he a good case, a good example of detain these people, do not let them out to roam the streets of Britain?
Well, it's abhorrent what he has done, and I think any asylum seeker or refugee who commits a crime like he has done should lose automatically their right to asylum and a right to refugee status. We need to dramatically reduce illegal immigration. We need to reduce asylum numbers. I want to see the end to the use of hotels. But what really concerns me, and Adam's talked about it, what really concerns me about the decision, the government's committed to ending the use of hotels by the end of this Parliament, but the net result of that decision of the High Court last week will probably mean more asylum seekers being housed in houses of multiple occupation.
Going to be worse.
And there are at least as great a concern, if not greater, about HMOs. And that's why I think the government is right to appeal the decision so that it can manage the process and manage the end of hotel use over the next few years.
I get this online. People say, oh, you're just going to end up moving it somewhere else. Let me just state this clear. We, the people of Epping Forest, are getting these people out of our area because we have had 2 alleged sexual assaults. We have had girls harassed to and from school. We've had women flashed in the forest and on the common opposite. There has been hundreds of issues. I've got women lining up to speak on camera if ever, for whatever reason, I need them to do so. This community has been almost destroyed by this migrant hotel. So no one can say, oh, you're out of order trying to stop this. We are looking after our own. And I suggest everyone else in their areas, if they've got a problem, start looking after their own as well, because this is a terrible, terrible problem. And far too many of these asylum seekers have issues with their behaviour with women and children. And if they hold on, Bill, there are cases up and down the country of rape and sexual assault. Far too many. They're the ones we know about. How many that we don't know about? Because we know authorities are hiding this so that communities do not get angry.
If you look at the reality and you look at the figures, foreign nationals are slightly less likely to commit sexual offences than British nationals.
One in four sexual assaults is by a foreign man. Fact.
You go and look online at the Sky News analysis of the statistics.
That was debunked. Sky messed it up. They had to put a footnote. Bill, go online now.
One in four foreign men, one in four sexual assaults is by a foreign man. That is a fact, Bill. Come on, let's
but Bill,
Adam. Let's come to the practicality of this issue, and you do have to bear the consequences of your actions. Either, until we can dramatically reduce the numbers, either you put people in hotels, or you put them in houses of multiple occupation, or you put them in detention centres.
Yes,
that's it. We build them quick.
And every single one of those would be opposed by local residents and local politicians.
Well, there must be air bases that are not near villages that we can fence up, put tents in, and that will also act as a deterrent to those still waiting to come over.
And so, in James Cleverley's constituency in Braintree, when the use of a military facility was proposed, he and others
But the difference is, Chloe, just before I come to you, the difference is at RAF Wethersfield in Braintree, they are allowed out into the community.
Yeah.
They get bussed, they get free bus. I've been there. They put buses and coaches on for the migrants to come out. They go into Essex, they go shopping with their Aspen cards and their 40 quid. They're allowed to roam the streets. I spoke to a couple of people from RAF Wethersfield who lived down the lane. They said these migrants were smoking cannabis, defecating down the lanes. So the difference, I argue, with this introduction tonight is put them in detention centres where they are not allowed to leave.
And they would be opposed by local politicians.
I don't think as much as...
Not if they're not allowed.
I mean, you have NIMBYs everywhere, and people will oppose anything, any kind of building being put up. But I think that there is a big difference if residents don't have as much concern about the safety of their children, women and girls, and people getting up to no good in the communities. But I don't deny for a second that this is going to be chaos if we have every single hotel across the country trying to do this. But I actually welcome that, because that chaos, where the Home Office realises if we keep having crazy numbers of people coming across the channel every single day and we can't figure out where to house them, I think that will give them the kick up the backside that they need to actually do something to stop the boats from coming. You've already seen, I know this isn't stopping boats, but you've seen this is force them to put out this sudden announcements where they say, oh, we're going to change how we process the asylum appeal so that we can try and speed that up to get them out of this taxpayer accommodation. But isn't it convenient exactly when that's been announced? I think that this has given them a bit of a push.
But sorry, it's been months in the planning, and it's a detailed, complicated change that I wholly welcome, because one of the pull factors for asylum seekers coming to this country is the fact that you arrive, you fail in your asylum application, you then go into the appeal long grass, and it can be years before your case is dealt with. That acts as a pull for people to come to this country.
They know that they're using the ECHR, I think it's Article 8. Even if they're denied asylum, we still have to house them. We still have to house them and still have to feed them. That should end. Greece is already saying no migrants now, and they're going to detain them for 5 years, or they're going to deport them. We need the tough talk, but that's not going to happen when we've got a human rights lawyer as our Prime Minister. He's only going to get weaker, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, Tuesday, Reform UK have their big song and dance bill announcement about detention centres, no right to appeal. They'll be not allowed to leave these detention centres. They'll be shipped off to the likes of Ascension Island in the South Atlantic. So, I mean, are you concerned as a Labour man about Reform's rhetoric on that? That's coming on Tuesday.
I don't actually think it's practically deliverable. But in terms of Ascension Island, one of the things I'm in favour of is the government proactively looking at offshore processing, whether it's the Ascension Island, whether it's the Balkans. No, but Rwanda was about the permanent relocation of applicants. Offshore processing is that you're sent immediately to that offshore country and your claim is processed there. And if you then have the right to come to the UK, you can come.
I just wonder how many more young girls are going to be raped or assaulted before this problem is sorted out. How many? What's the limit? Anybody got a number? How many is acceptable?
I don't think the offshore processing will be set up before 2029, Ben, that's for sure.
Really quickly, last one.
The schools go back in 2 weeks. My niece that goes to St John's in Epping isn't allowed into Epping High Road because of these migrants.
What a joke. That's the government. Governments of all colours and all names. You know, I'm not going to just pin it on Labour because it's been happening under the Tories as well, but it's disgusting what's being allowed to happen, and it makes me weep.